Welcome to Yarok, the Desecrated. Hope you're excited to talk about a Sultai Panharmonicon commander. Oh my god, yes. If you don't know, if you're new to the channel, I love Sultai and also love Panharmonicon. So, to have both of these cards on one card, I've died and gone to Commander Heaven. So, I cannot wait to build this deck. There's so many interesting ways you can take Yarok. But let's go and start off with the actual commander itself. And that's going to be Yarok, the Desecrated. So, 5 total converted mana cost, Death Touch, and Lifelink. Then, if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So, long story short, what does that mean? Let's say we have Yarok on the battlefield, we cast Reclamation Sage, it enters the battlefield, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. That's going to be amplified times 2. Well, not times 2, but you're going to get an extra trigger. So, you're going to have 2 triggers, destroy 2 artifacts and 2 enchantments. This basically makes it to where all of your decks are 2-for-1s, and it's one of the best feelings in Commander to go for that. Now, this is a heavy deck tech skewed towards enter the battlefield effects. I'm sure there's some other ways you can take Yarok, but this is primarily going to be focused on creatures entering the battlefield and really kind of amplifying those effects of them entering the battlefield. Now, one of the very good ways you can definitely take advantage of some cheap enter the battlefield effects is going to be Evoke. We have Shriekmaw, Night Incarnate, and Mournwhelk. With Shriekmaw, that's going to be double the destruction spells. Night Incarnate, every creature getting -6/-6 is pretty much going to take care of the entire board. So you're going to have a board wipe for 4 mana, which, that's normally what you would be doing, but you get to run a creature in that spot, so that's always nice. And then you also have some kind of interesting effects like Mournwhelk. It's not that good of an evoke cost, but if that enters the battlefield, you evoke it for 4, you make your opponent discard 4 cards. By the time you're going for Evoke for 4 and you go for them, make them discard 4 cards, that's going to be really hard for your opponent to bounce back from that, especially, with you being in Sultai colors. You can bounce back with some really nice card advantage and then really make sure they have no more cards left in the hand. There's also some kind of blue evoke options where we can kind of send stuff back to their hand. There's Aether Snipe that's going to return target non-land permanent back for 3 mana. Getting that 2-for-1 of just sending something back. Let's say they tapped out 6 or 7 mana for their commander. You just spend 3 mana, send 2 of their things back, send 1 of their mana rocks and their commander back. That might be enough for you to close the game out because they're going to have to rebuild, get that mana rock back out, and get their commander back out. So that's a really nice effect. And then also Mold Drifter, 3 mana, draw 4 cards. Sign me up. Sounds like a plan. Like I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, Reclamation Sage, you want to run some sort of artifact enchantment destruction. You want to ramp on your side of the battlefield, and you want to make sure that your opponent can't keep artifacts or enchantments on their side. So, Manglehorn, Reclamation Sage, Verdine Corruptor. There's a few more options out there that can destroy artifacts and enchantments from your opponents. But these are some of the heavy hitters, and these are definitely cards that you'd be running in your deck. And there's also some other kind of big mana destruction spells. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. It is a 4/4 with the Stomp Howler. Then Acidic Slime is going to be able to take care of pretty much artifact, enchantment, or land. So let's say your opponent's running Guy's Cradle. They have some sort of land destruction spell, Wasteland, Ancient Tomb. Acidic Slime is going to keep you really open as far as what you want to destroy. And just make sure you can get some, Acidic Slime for double lands. That's pretty nasty. Now, we talked about Evoke. We talked about some of these creatures entering the battlefield and destroying artifacts and enchantments. One of the other things that you definitely want to run in your deck is some sort of destruction spell against your opponent's creatures. So you have Mono Black, there's Fleshback Marauders, Merciless Executioner, Playcrafter. These are all sacrifice elements. You can have these enter the battlefield. And it doesn't matter if it's 1 versus 1 commander or if it's a multiplayer commander. Each player is going to have to sacrifice a permanent. So you can see we're having your commander down. Getting any combination of these down is really going to put a huge amount of pressure on your opponent's board state that they're trying to develop and allow you to basically just kind of hopefully control the game. There's some other targeted removal you can go for. There's Ravenous Chupacabra, Necrotal, Bone Shredder. Just simply getting that 2-for-1 and destroying 2 creatures on the battlefield and maintaining your own creature is such a nice effect. And also, Mono Blue, you do have a little bit of kind of tempo plays. Exclusion Mage, Man of War. Sending 2 creatures back to your opponent's hand is going to be really hard for them to bounce back, especially when you're in that spot where you can kind of take over the game. And of course, Vendilion Click. It's always nice to be able to get double hand disruption at your opponent. Kind of shuffle. They do get to replace the card that you shuffle away, but if it's gotten to the point in the game where you have your commander down, they've only got 3 or 4 cards in the hand, likely they're holding on to those cards to help them win. So in Vendilion Click, that's going to be 2 options for you to make them get rid of those cards, which is going to be really nice. Long story short, these enter the battlefield effects are going to be great ways for you to control the board and put some put some pretty good hurt on your opponent. Now, outside of destruction, making sure things stay off the battlefield, you want to run some sort of card advantage. You can be able to generate card advantage quicker than your opponent can. Augur of Bolus, that's going to allow you to look at the top 3 cards. Riverwise Augur, that's going to be a brainstorm effect, so you're going to get double brainstorm. Seagate Oracle, look at the top 2 cards, put one in your hand, one on the bottom. Basically, these are really nice effects to run by themselves, but the fact that you get that double amplifying effect, it's really going to help you generate card advantage to make sure you can keep those creatures returning to the battlefield and generating that value. Same thing with Snapcaster Mage and Torrential Gearhulk, making sure that you can turn your graveyard online. Most of the time you hold on to Snapcaster for some like choke point in the game to where your opponent's not expecting it, but flash in Snapcaster, that's going to be double triggers. You can flashback Brainstorm, you can flashback Cultivate. Simply being able to just amplify the flashback ability is a really nice effect. And the Trencher Gearhulk, that is a little expensive to go for the double things, but it's always nice to have that option. And of course, Mr. Four Finger Discount, the king of card advantage, Gonti, Lord of Luxury. This deck is perfect for him. You can go for Gonti, exile the top 4 cards of your opponent's library. You get to pick one of those, then we get to spend our manas on any color to cast that spell. If you've never played with Gonti, Gonti is one of the best cards in Commander. So much fun, because what Gonti does is it makes your deck an extension of your opponent's deck. So, get down Gonti, let's say we have Panharmonicon, we can flash it somehow. You're basically going to be able to keep getting some sort of powerhouse threat. I mean, you're looking at the top 4 cards of your opponents, you're basically getting a Brainstorm for 4, and then you get to seal that card, which is such a good thing. But yes, if you're thinking about building this deck, it starts with your commander, and then you put Gonti in there second, and then you build the rest of the 98, because that's what needs to happen. Now, outside of entering the battlefield and generating some sort of value or destroying stuff, you want to be able to return stuff out of your graveyard. This is Sultai, so Sultai does care about graveyards. You want to create this loop between graveyard, battlefield, and your hand. There's some really good options. We have Mancer, that's going to be able to return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Same thing with Mnemonic Wall. One of the cool things about this is, let's say that we have Ghostly Flicker. We flicker Wall, we're going to be able to return that back to our hand. So you're basically going to be able to kind of, once you get Wall on the battlefield, just kind of keep this like constant Ghostly Flicker loop, which is such a good feeling. In green, we have some returned permanents from the graveyard. We have Eternal Witness. Tilling Tree Folk's going to bring 2 lands from your graveyard back to your hand. Eternal Witness is basically just going to keep you online for whatever you need to keep going. Like I mentioned, let's say you have Wall on the battlefield and you just Ghostly Flicker, Eternal Witness, and Wall. That is some good value right there. And of course, Mono Black, we have some sort of reanimator option. That's going to be Phyrexian Delver. Getting that double amplifying effect. You do have to pay some life, but hey, greatness at any cost. And as long as you get extra creatures on the bound. And imagine if you have some sort of enter the battlefield effect creature out of the graveyard. You've got your commander, you go for Phyrexian Delver, bring back 2 creatures. That's going to be more amplifying effects. Can't wait to build this deck. A lot of fun. One of the other ways you can take your deck is definitely running some sort of token package. We've got the double squirrel option, Deranged Hermit and Forest Hermit. You end up with 8 squirrels on the battlefield. Even if you don't pay the vanishing, even if you don't pay the echo cost, or if the vanishing goes away and you lose that tribal effect for your squirrels, you still got 8 tokens for 5 mana, which is a really nice effect. Then let's say that you have Conjurer's Closet on the battlefield to keep bouncing it. Next thing you know, you have your entire squirrel army. And if you've never assembled a squirrel army in Commander, that is some good magic right there. Now, of course, Grave Titan, being able to have it enter the battlefield, get 4 zombies. I like that a lot. Avenger of Zendikar enters the battlefield, get those plant tokens, then you can really kind of start to amplify it out. There's a lot of times where you get down Avenger of Zendikar early due to some ramp, and you're only going to end up with about 4 or 5 plant tokens. So, with your commander on the battlefield, we go Avenger of Zendikar. It's just going to amplify those tokens so we can kind of turn it out really quick. And then basically, if you want to keep bouncing it, keep getting those nice little tokens, those +1 counters onto those plant tokens. And of course, value plays like Singar Autocrat. Depending, let's say you somehow build some sort of aristocrat soul type, which you certainly do. It's fun to go for that. I'm not going to be building it because I have too many aristocrat decks, but you should go for it. You're going to be able to end up with 6 of those tokens, those serve tokens on the battlefield with Autocrat. And that's going to be a really nice thing, if you're going to be sacrificing your tokens to draw cards, to make them do whatever you want to do, it's going to enable a ton of tokens on the battlefield. And have some really good fun with that. Outside of the, generating tokens, destroying stuff, you also want to run some sort of enter the battlefield value effect. Wood elves, it's going to allow you to search your library for a land card. There's a few other options out there. I'm just kind of highlighting some of the key cards that you can run. So if you find something that you like, look into that card. You'll find a few other cards. There's typically with a lot of these cards, there's two or three more that kind of buddy along with that effect, and you can definitely add those to your deck. But Wood Elves is really going to help you with some ramp. Fierce Empath is going to allow you to find some of those bigger creatures. 6 or greater, so that's going to be Avenger Zendikar right there with Fierce Empath. Now, it does get a little clunky with Fierce Empath because it enters the battlefield. If you have double triggers, you have to search your library for that card, shuffle it, put it on top. No, excuse me, it goes into your hand, so you're good to go. For some reason, I was thinking of Milani Beast Tracker, so no, never mind, you're good to go. It goes right into your hand, so you can do those double triggers. Then, of course, if you're swarming the board with tokens, you can have some sort of amplifying effect to close the game out. Double Crater Hoof triggers, double Enraged Forerunner triggers. That's going to make sure that no matter what sort of value board state, because there's sometimes when you build an enter the battlefield deck, you've got this entire motley crew of, you've got Mancer on the battlefield, the instant sorcerer one, you've got some other stuff on there. You have all these creatures that don't really want to swing in and attack your opponent, but drop in a quick Crater Hoof, and next thing you know, you can swing in and attack with everybody and hopefully wipe the entire board out. Same thing with card draw. There's Tashana, Prime Speaker Zagana, Regal Force. These are all going to make sure that you have some sort of huge amount of card draw, and that's really going to help you close the game out. Now, there's a ton of creatures that I'm covering in this deck tech. I just want to kind of remind everybody that you don't want to shove all of these in there. Basically, the way I'm trying to do these deck techs is I'm saying this is possible. So if you find something that you like, take some notes, put it into your deck. If you jam all of these into your Yarok deck, it's may not be that good because you've got a lot of competing strategies. But just kind of focus on 2 or 3 options, that 2 or 3 packages that you really like, and then you can put it into your deck. Now, let's get on to the free value spells. I'm not a huge fan of these. I don't run them, but it's worth noting that you can have these options of being able to untap a ton of stuff. Treachery is going to enter the battlefield. You're going to gain control of a creature. Then you get to untap 10 lands. Sounds like a good plan to me. You've got Drake and the other one that's going to untap up to 7 lands. I mean, God, that's going to be a ton of value right there. And then, something simple like if you're not trying to, a lot of these cards, you're going to combo off of these cards. So if you know about these cards, if you know what combo you're going to run, hey, run them in there. That's going to be able to definitely enable that combo. But, something like Cloud of Fairies, being able to have that enter the battlefield and untap 4 lands. It's going to be kind of pseudo ramp in a way. That's really going to help you power some stuff out. And of course, Great Whale. It's nice to be able to run a whale in a deck and you get to untap 7 lands. So sounds like a plan. But yeah, I typically don't run a lot of these untap effects, but hey, it's good to know about it. And especially if you're going to be in a meta where you need to combo off before somebody else combos off, these are the great places to start. And then you can look into a few other options to kind of go from there. Now, one of the other things that you definitely want to keep in mind is running some sort of landfall package in your deck. You need to make sure you have that value kind of overlap with a lot of your creatures. Lotus Cobra, Tireless Tracker is going to give you those clue tokens for card draw. And then Rampaging Bailoff is going to make sure that you can always get some sort of token on the battlefield. Like I mentioned, we're running Crater Hoof, Enraged Forerunner in here potentially. Simply getting down Rampaging Bailoff and making your land drops, that's really going to make it to where you just have an instant board state to swing in and really start attacking your opponent's life total. Tireless Tracker, as long as it can stick around, that's just going to be some nice consistent card draws as you make your land drops. And then Lotus Cobra, running fetch lands in a 3-color deck is not that far-fetched. Get it down, fetch a land, that's going to be 2 mana. You just have some really explosive turns with Lotus Cobra. It's definitely worth running in the deck. You don't really see it a lot in Commander, but Lotus Cobra can make for some very interesting games. Now, we've covered all the enter the battlefield effects. You want to be able to kind of amplify those effects outside of your commander, because let's say your opponent deals with your commander and you get that commander tax up. You want to have some sort of backup plan or a plan B for the deck, and these are definitely the lieutenants for the deck. So Panharmonicon, that's going to amplify those triggers out there. Imagine you have your rock on the battlefield, you have Panharmonicon. That is a lot of triggers. And then Conjurer's Closet is going to make sure those triggers keep bouncing turn after turn. So, and the good thing about Conjurer's Closet is, let's say you have Reclamation Sage on the battlefield, you have Riverwise Augur, you can just basically kind of choose what you need to go for. Conjurer's Closet allows you to kind of be really open in what you need to control in the board state. If there's nothing you need to destroy, you can simply just generate some card value. And then same thing with Deadeye Navigator. You get that Soul Bond 2-mana activation, you're going to start bouncing some stuff. I mean, there's just tons of crazy things that you can do. Outside of the kind of higher converted mana cost things as a backup plan, you could also run some kind of bounce spells. So Illusionist Stratagem and then Ghostly Flicker. These are all great options just to get that extra value. So Ghostly Flicker, you can exile some artifacts, creatures, or lands you control if you need to trigger some extra landfall abilities. Whatever that may be, this is basically just going to be definitely an enabler. And for 3 and 4 mana, you're definitely going to get your money's worth out of that. Now, outside of the actual enter the battlefield support, you're going to run some sort of card advantage or something that just kind of hits on these creatures entering the battlefield. Path of Discovery, you're going to get that Explore option whenever a creature enters the battlefield. Beast Whisper, whenever a creature, you're going to get a card draw. And then Guardian Project. Basically, we're going to be casting creatures. You're going to carry over some sort of value, and these cards definitely make that happen. Guardian Project's going to enter the battlefield. You get to draw an additional card. That's going to be a very nice effect. And Cream of the Crop. Cream of the Crop is a very good card. You don't really see it a lot in Commander. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you can basically look at the top X cards, where X is that creature's power. So let's say we have a 4/4 enter the battlefield. Then we get to put one of those 4 on top of our library, and the rest go on the bottom in any order. We want to be casting creatures in this deck, so with Cream of the Crop on the battlefield, that's going to make sure that you can put some more enter the battlefield creatures on top. And then also with Season of Growth, brand new card from the new set. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you get to scry 1. It's 2 mana. That's great right there. And the fact that you get this down, this is going to be a very high impact card for the deck, because we want, like I said, you want to cast a lot of creatures. You want to have a lot of creatures entering the battlefield. Getting that scry, scry is nice for one, but getting that repeated scry effect's really going to make sure you sculpt the top part of your library to have some sort of high impact option to deal with whatever sort of threats are on the battlefield. Now, the entire deck tech, we've talked about getting creatures onto the battlefield and supporting that. Let's talk about bringing those creatures back to our hands to kind of recycle that extra value. So we have Dreamstalker, enters the battlefield, return a permanent you control to its owner's hand. Temur Sabertooth, that's an activated ability of returning a creature back. And then same thing with Shrieking Drake. Look at that card art on Shrieking Drake. Oh man, that's beautiful. Love it. Looks good. Either way, these are all things that still have a nice end of the battlefield effect. Besides Temur Sabertooth, you're going to be able to get double those effects, bring them back to your hand. So let's say that we can't find Panharmonicon or Conjurer's Closet. These are great options for us to kind of bring stuff back. Even if we have Shrieking Drake on the battlefield, we go for Dreamstalker, we bring Shrieking Drake back, and then something like Reclamation Sage, recast those. There's just a lot of times where you can just end up with this value loop of just casting stuff, and it feels really good. Outside of creatures, there's also some really good counter options that you can return stuff back to your hand. Disappearing Act, Familiar's Ruse. These are all going to be some good hard counter spells that's going to allow you to bring something back and go for that enter the battlefield effect. And of course, Cloudstone Curio, that's going to enable some really good options. Get this on the battlefield whenever a non-artifact permanent comes into play. Return a permanent that shares a permanent type with it. So you cast a creature, bring that back. You're going to be good to go. But that is going to be it for the deck tech. Where you want to take your rock deck is going to be completely up to you. There's a ton of options out there. You've got landfall, you've got tokens, you've got control. There's a ton of things that you can do with this deck. So excited. I love Sultai, and I cannot wait to build this commander. In fact, it's probably going to be one of the first commanders that I put out on my channel. But that is going to be it for the video. Like I mentioned in these other videos, if there's something that I missed, if there's something that you're going to be including in your deck, be sure to leave it in the comments. There's a lot of people that like to watch these videos for some sort of starting point for their deck. And of course, leaving some sort of information in the comments is really going to help them make sure they build one of the best decks they can. So if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.